Today we're going to be tying a bumblebee. It's a fly that I've tied for over 35 years and I like to use it for bluegill. The materials that we use a hook size 10 3906B, red marabou, yellow chenille size medium, peacock herl, and I like to use an 030 lead in order to get the fly deep. The first step is to insert the hook into the vise, and I'll be using a rotating vise that makes it easier for me to actually tie this fly. I'll be using the 030 lead, and I will tie it on starting at the rear of the hook, wrapping toward the front, about 10 wraps, leaving room at the front of the hook for tying off. If you just wiggle it and hold it, they'll break off, and it'll break off even. It's a pretty good little trick. The next step is to secure the lead, starting at the front of the hook, holding the lead with my left hand so it doesn't move, and wrap to the rear of the hook. Put a little bit of a thread base at the rear of the hook, and that's where we'll tie on the tail. I use red marabou, and you just we're going to trim it once we get the fly made, so we're going to tie it on at the very end of the hook. And don't worry about how much you have sticking out at the rear, because we're going to trim it. It's kind of like a little tail on the end of the hook. The next step is to select about 6 or 7 strands of peacock herl and trim off the unwanted part at the front. They're usually real hard and they don't wrap very well. We'll tie on the peacock, and then wrap to the center, leave the thread at the center of the hook shank. Now I'll use a rotating part of the vise and put a layer of peacock herl up to the center. Tie off the peacock, trim the excess peacock. The next step is to put the yellow chenille on, and what I like to do to prevent bulk is to pull a little bit of the chenille off to give a good place to start tying from. There's less bulk there. Wrap to the eye of the hook, and then I'll use the rotating part of the vise function in order to wrap the yellow chenille to the front. Tie off the yellow chenille, notice I always try to cut at the top of the hook so the thread hangs down to the bottom, and don't cut the thread, and then whip finish. And that completes the bumblebee.